Should you use basal body temperature tracking when you are trying to conceive? In this video, I will explain what basal body temperature is, how to track it, and what it tells you about your hormones and what is happening inside your body. By the end of this video, you will know how measuring your basal body temperature will help you confirm ovulation. What is your basal body temperature? Your basal body temperature, which is also known as your BBT, is your body's lowest temperature at rest. And why should you track your basal body temperature? The short answer is that by monitoring your basal body temperature, you will be able to confirm whether or not you ovulated that particular menstrual cycle. After you ovulate, the follicle that releases the egg turns into another gland which is known as the corpus luteum. The job of the corpus luteum is to produce progesterone in the second half of the menstrual cycle, which is in the luteal phase. Now that progesterone is being produced, this hormone is what actually raises your body temperature. So once you've ovulated, your baseline temperature will shift and increase slightly. And your temperature will stay in this shift as long as progesterone is being produced. And if you don't ovulate, you won't form a corpus luteum, which means that you won't produce progesterone, and then your basal body temperature won't increase either. You can 100% confirm ovulation by tracking your basal body temperature. When you track your basal body temperature and you see an increase in temperature and this temperature increase stays elevated, what you have identified is the fact that your hormone progesterone is now being produced. And the fact that progesterone can only be made by the corpus luteum, which can only exist after successful ovulation has happened, you have now confirmed 100% that you have ovulated. What temperature shifts will you expect to see while tracking your basal body temperature? Progesterone actually raises your basal body temperature very slightly. It is a 0.6 degrees Celsius or around a 1 degree Fahrenheit. I know this sounds like a small increase, but it is more about the shift in temperatures that you are witnessing when tracking your basal body temperature, and you should see an obvious shift. And when you see the shift in temperatures, you now know that you are producing sufficient levels of progesterone, which then confirms that in fact that you did ovulate. Basically, men and women have average temperatures, but for women, we will have two average temperatures depending on which phase of the menstrual cycle we are in, as our follicular phase temperatures will be lower than our luteal phase temperatures. Our follicular phase or pre-ovulatory temperatures will range between 36.1 and 36.4 degrees Celsius or 97.15 to 97.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Once ovulation has occurred, you are now in your luteal phase or your post-ovulatory phase, and you should expect then to see temperatures ranging between 36.5 to 37 degrees Celsius or 97.6 to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. When tracking your basal body temperature, you won't get the exact same reading every day, but you still want your temperature to be relatively stable without a massive range. So you want stable temperatures in your follicular phase, and then when you see the increased temperatures in your luteal phase, you want these temperatures to remain quite stable also. You won't see an increase in temperature if you don't ovulate, as it's the progesterone that causes the increase in basal body temperature, and your body won't produce progesterone if you don't ovulate. How do you track your basal body temperature? It is important to use a specific thermometer which is called a basal body thermometer, and these are made specifically for tracking your basal body temperature. You use them like most other thermometers. You place it in your mouth and it will give you a reading to 2 decimal places, which gives you a more accurate reading for your basal body temperature tracking. Thermometers that are made for fevers are not sensitive enough to pick up the slight increase in temperature after ovulation. And just a side note, the basal body thermometers are not really that great at detecting fevers when sick, so go back to using your regular thermometer in these circumstances. When in your cycle should you start tracking your basal body temperature? A general rule is to start tracking your basal body temperature using your specific basal body thermometer on day 5 of your menstrual cycle. So day 1 is first day of full flow, and day 5 will be when you start tracking your basal body temperature. And you will check your basal body temperature every day until your next period. Now you must check your basal body temperature daily so you can see and you can witness the consecutive days of low temperatures in your follicular phase. then followed by consecutive days of higher temperatures after you've ovulated, which then is now in your luteal phase. If you don't check your basal body temperature daily, you might miss this shift in increased temperatures, which might mean that you missed the moment that ovulation happened. To confirm ovulation, it is important to see 3 consecutive days of increased temperatures. If you only see 1 day of increased temperatures and then it comes back to baseline, there could be something else going on, and we still need to assume then that you are in your fertile phase. What time of the day should you check your basal body temperature? Here's the tricky part. You should check your basal body temperature first thing in the morning before you even get up, and it should be done at the same time every day. Even on the weekends, set a consistent alarm clock that goes off at the same time every day throughout your menstrual cycle. Remember, your basal body temperature is your lowest temperature at rest. As soon as you start moving, you get up, you go to the toilet, even talking, for example, can raise your basal body temperature, which means if you test after movement, you won't get an accurate basal body temperature reading. It's only when you're resting and checking your basal body temperature when we can see the hormonal effects on your body. Any food or drink will also impact your basal body temperature, so don't consume anything before checking either. Basically, have your basal body thermometer ready to go on your bedside table every morning. Set your alarm clock for the same time every day, including weekends. As soon as you wake up, check your basal body temperature as the absolute first thing that you do. Before anything, even before going to the bathroom. And what happens if your basal body temperatures are not stable? Every now and then you may see a single basal body temperature that seems higher or lower for that particular phase of your menstrual cycle. In this circumstance, you don't need to focus on every individual temperature reading. It is the trend that matters and the shift in temperatures that is important. The trend that you are looking for is lower basal body temperatures in the follicular phase, which is before ovulation, and then higher basal body temperatures after ovulation, which is in the luteal phase. And remember, you can't confirm ovulation until you have 3 consecutive temperature increases in a row. Factors that will affect your basal body temperature tracking. As you have seen, the temperature shift is a subtle one, with a 0.5 increase in degrees Celsius or up to a 1 degree increase in Fahrenheit. And this is why you need to test at the same time every day. But there are other things that can alter your basal body temperature. And the main one is sleep disruption. Not getting at least 3 hours sleep in a row before checking your basal body temperature will alter it. You need at least 3 hours of consecutive sleep in a row for your body to be fully rested and have an accurate basal body temperature reading. Other lifestyle factors that can alter and increase your basal body temperature are drinking alcohol the night before, being sick and having a fever, significant stress, travel, and especially for shift workers. Also, stages in life can impact and increase your basal body temperatures, and these are such things as breastfeeding, perimenopause, or even if you have thyroid disease. How to use basal body temperature tracking when trying to conceive. Charting your basal body temperature is what confirms that you did ovulate, as progesterone is what increases your temperature, and you only produce progesterone if you have ovulated. But what's important to know is that the egg only survives for 12 to 24 hours after you have ovulated. So if you have confirmed ovulation and you are trying to conceive, unfortunately it is now too late for intercourse to try for a baby because the egg for this menstrual cycle has been and gone. We are lucky then that the sperm can survive inside our reproductive tract for up to 5 days. If you are trying to conceive, you need to time intercourse for the 5 days before ovulation. And your body does show you signs that ovulation is approaching, and I cover this in my previous videos, Get Pregnant Faster by Tracking Ovulation and Your Fertile Window, and How to Use Ovulation Tests. And I'll link these videos in the cards and in the description box below. So you can't only use basal body temperature tracking if you are trying to conceive. Use the predictive ways of ovulation to time sexual intercourse with your most fertile time in your menstrual cycle. And once you confirm ovulation, you are no longer fertile, and then you can go back to having sex for fun and intimacy in your relationship. What about tracking your basal body temperature if you have long cycles or PCOS? It is true that having irregular and long menstrual cycles and tracking your basal body temperature can be frustrating. But it is even more important for people with long menstrual cycles to chart their fertility using cervical mucus and especially basal body temperature tracking. If you have long menstrual cycles, it is possible and even likely that you are ovulating, just not regularly and predictably. So using predictive signs of ovulation, such as cervical mucus and ovulation tests, is still important to time sexual intercourse, as each time you see these signs, your body is trying to ovulate. Unfortunately, you don't ovulate every time your body is trying to. So your body attempts again and sometimes again. The cool thing about using your basal body temperature is that you will be able to confirm ovulation when it does happen. And if you have timed intercourse according to your predictive signs of ovulation, and you had sex a few times in the 5 days leading up to ovulation, there is absolutely a chance that the sperm could have met your elusive egg and created a baby. What about basal body temperature tracking and confirming pregnancy? The coolest thing about tracking your basal body temperature is that you see a shift in temperatures which then confirm ovulation. But if the egg is fertilized and the fertilized egg implants in the uterus, HCG, which is the pregnancy hormone, will signal the corpus luteum to continue to make progesterone. In this circumstance, if you are tracking your basal body temperature, you will continue to see temperature levels in the higher trend. And if these temperatures stay elevated on day 16 and onward in your menstrual cycle after you've confirmed ovulation, you will be able to confirm that you are pregnant. How cool is that? When tracking your basal body temperature, and if pregnancy doesn't happen, you will expect to see a drop in temperatures about 1 to 2 days before menstruation. Now, this varies from one individual to the next and from cycle to cycle. If no pregnancy is detected, the corpus luteum dies and estrogen and progesterone production decline. And once progesterone levels drop, so too does your basal body temperature. It is possible for some individuals to see higher temperatures during their period, just so you know. I love tracking basal body temperatures because it's pretty much free, except for the cost of the basal body thermometer. It's relatively easy as long as you are diligent with checking your temperature every day. And of course, you can confirm ovulation and pregnancy using this method. And it's always exciting to confirm that you did ovulate. Remember, if you have confirmed that you have ovulated by tracking your basal body temperature, it is too late this menstrual cycle to time intercourse to try to conceive. If you are trying to conceive and you would like to increase your chances of falling pregnant each menstrual cycle, you need to be tracking your fertility signs such as cervical mucus and the LH surges, because these signs are predicting that ovulation is about to happen. And you can learn more about these methods in my previous video, Get Pregnant Fast by Tracking Ovulation and Your Fertile Window. I'll see you there.